I am live yet again. RT Bear here, Hack Shack Studios, coming to you live. Yeah, I just finished up a live stream where I got a lot of clarification out on the Vampirilla situation with Black and White. But we are going to have a ton of fun for the next hour or so. We are going to be hanging out with Clint Hilinski. I like people's names that I can just spell phonetically. Like if you spell Clint's name, it's exactly the way it sounds. I like that. Like T-Bear, never in a million years. You just can't get it. You can't get it. There's no way. You would think T-B-E-A-R, but that's not the case now, is it? The French got to complicate everything. And sadly, I am French in origin, so I'm one of them complicated people. So let me send out a link to Clint Hilinski. Oh, and I want to thank you guys. If you were paying attention and watched the other stream that I just finished up actually just a few minutes ago, on the Black and White Vampirilla stuff. Thank you guys. You guys are coming through with buying these. Like I just held these up and somebody offered to buy them. So they're actually selling right now. I'm not going to, whatever you guys want to send, I think in the chat they were talking about $300. So I want to, if you guys still want one, just get a hold of me. I guess you can go through the website, art at Hack Shack Studio. No, it's artbytbear.com, and it's in the description. So if you click on that, there's a way to contact me through there. I did take a leak. I brushed my teeth, threw some water on my face. I turned the air on here. It's not really hot right now, but the air gets a little heavy here in Texas, and I'm upstairs, so it gets a little bit. I don't know. It gets weird up here. It's my man stench. Art, you're back. Aloha. Yes, I am back. We back. Oh, I got all the usual suspects here. Mr. K, in his way, is going to challenge the world. Shout out to the Woodlands. Yeah, this place is gorgeous. This place is absolutely gorgeous. Last night before the professional spilling the ink, I almost didn't make the show. I was hanging out in the pool with my wife, and I was drinking margaritas, and they were quite delicious. And so I ended up coming in at the right time, but man, I tell you, it's one of those things where it's like, oh shoot, I got a show to do. So I had to put on some dry clothes and plug in. And that was on Aaron Lopresti's channel. If you guys don't know, The Professionals is a once a week show that I do with my professional buddies, which are Aaron Lopresti. We have Graham Nolan, we have Andy Smith, we have Daniel Fraga, my brother, and we have Billy Tucci, who he shows up whenever he wants. Billy is unpredictable. He's like the weather here in the Woodlands. You know, 1 minute it's raining, the next minute the sun's out. Yeah, you can never tell. Hell yeah, living the life of a rock star. I think this is probably the closest that I've ever come to living the life of a rock star. Even when I was somewhat a rock star, it wasn't. They were, I don't have the bottles here. I was drinking them during the stream. It's like a mix. It's what is it? It's got an alligator on the label. I had a get together with some friends, and they brought a bunch of alcohol over, and just like all good parties, there were leftovers. So these margaritas, they're like little, the grenade, I call them grenade bottles. They're like old root beer bottles, or do you remember, what were those things called? those Mickey's Big Mouth, the green grenade bottles. It was like that, and it had an alligator on it. So I don't know the brand. I think I brought it downstairs. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Hilinski in.
Start.
What's up? That's my metal. I don't know. Metal's more like rah rah rah, but like yeah. But I still kind of associate. I think it's my hair metal days.
Did you ever grow your hair out long, Art?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. In the day, yeah.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, I had. Well, the 90s, dude.
The 80s.
No, the 70s.
The 70s. You're not that much older than me.
Yeah, yeah. So, the last couple years of high school, everybody was getting the cool grow out, and then it was a weird time when there was this feather back hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so it was that was kind of the look.
You had that big plastic comb brush with the handle and stick it in the back pocket and get the feathering was exceptional. And girls and guys.
Yeah, it was I think I blame Farrah Fawcett. I think, but I don't know why it went to the guys, but they were some rock guys, even some of the badass guys had pseudo feathered hair.
Oh,
I think it was just the thing, and then it went to mullet, right? So the guys that were wanted to still be cool and keep their long hair, kind of. What was it? It was it was business up front and party in
the front or party in the back, business up front.
Yeah, business up front. Yeah.
Well, like our high school basketball team, it was you could only keep your hair a certain length. So you had to keep it all trimmed up in the front, but then they let you grow the mullet out back. The coach would allow that. So you couldn't go long all the way. Did Dazed and Confused, that movie Dazed and Confused, that just bring you back to the day? Because
I've never seen the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've wanted to. But you know what the best movie actually is, and it was kind of made at the time, was Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh yeah.
That's a little after I graduated. I think it was probably, is that early 80s or?
Yeah, I'd say 83, 82, somewhere in there, 81.
Yeah, so it's a little after, but there's enough overlap there that's
the late 70s and the early 80s were still the same. There wasn't if you go to 78 to 81, it's still kind of that same vibe.
Yeah, because new wave, it's funny because I've had people, they say the 70s were corporate rock. It was a dead decade for music and stuff like that, rock and roll. But it was not. Punk came out of the 70s. Early rap was coming towards the end of the 70s.
Yeah, totally.
And new wave, I always think, let's see where you land on the Cars. Remember that band, the Cars from Boston?
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember the Cars.
I always give those guys I think they created new wave. I give them the credit.
That sound for sure.
Yeah, because it was definitely retro, pulling from retro sources, and then with all that kind of funky sounds coming from the keyboards and stuff like that, like moving in stereo and some of that stuff. Man, the Cars were pretty badass.
Yeah, ahead of their time. I mean, a lot of the 80s stuff, I always think 83 to 84 was when that shift kind of happened, when Madonna showed up and Michael Jackson became not just a member of the Jackson 5. It's the music really changed, but there was some sounds the Cars were already kind of ahead of the curve, and a lot of people kind of jumped onto that kind of sound.
Yeah, and metal was kind of changing because I remember in high school, Maiden, we were getting the imports, with the original singer and stuff like that. So I was right on with Maiden when they broke, because those were the times where you could go to record stores and they had imports. You could go to the imports and you could find new bands, and even established bands. Sometimes there were albums that you couldn't get in the States, So there were some like Queen albums that were imports and stuff like that, and they would have songs on it that you couldn't get here. Eventually you could, but they were a little bit ahead. I think even the Beatles have like imports.
That's where like technology and the internet and everything, like some things that like died off that were really cool, like record stores. Like it was like just fun to go in there and find music as opposed to like scrolling through your Spotify or something, like the soulless type of internet music that's out there now. It's like it was way more authentic a feel, like albums, and even when it was like cassettes and CDs, there was still music stores that you went and hung out at.
Do you remember when your cassettes would, like your well-loved cassettes would start like slowing down in certain sections, like
yeah. or when the tape deck just ate it, all of a sudden you just saw the tape shooting out. No.
And then you would gingerly try to release it from whatever was caught on, and then you would try to play it again, and then it would just jam in that same place because there was a crease in the tape.
Yep. All of a sudden, you're James Bond defusing a bomb. You're like got like your whatever pens or like paper clips, and you're like intricately, sweat pouring down. You're trying to save that cassette.
Right. And then you have that one pencil kind of technique where you put it into those little gears, and you can kind of, because for some reason you're thinking like, the reason I'm having problems is it's not tightly wound. So then you like hand tighten those things. It's like, what the hell, man?
Just praying that the tape isn't twisted in any spot. I can wind it back in there. It's going to be just as good.
It never is, man. But I mean, the worst technology was 8-track, but I bought a car that had an 8-track player in it. So I would go to swap meets and just get like $1, like 8 tracks and stuff like that. So I never really put too much credit, and time and effort into it.
Yeah.
But I did have a few 8 tracks, and those things were the worst because they would flip tracks like right in the middle of a song. Like sometimes they would go and then they would just go to another track.
It would just kick up.
Yeah, it was always different. So it was kicking you around. So if you were like getting into the groove of a song, it could kick you to like, if that was track 3, it could kick you to track 4.
Just in the middle for no reason.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't hear the whole song yet, you son of a bitch.
And that was just before me, because I'm not even sure I've ever even really seen an 8-track like floating around. Because I mean, I was probably a little kid when they were like at their height. And I don't even remember them from then. So,
if you don't mind me asking, when did you graduate high school?
90.
Oh shit, you're a lot younger than I am.
What, 10 years?
10, 11 years. Yeah, I graduated in 79.
Yep.
And did you guys have like a stupid slogan like in your yearbook? Because I think ours was like,
I'm sure.
We are classy, we are fine, we're the class of 79.
Oh God. Yeah, we did. We totally did. And it was like, I remember it was like all neon colors on the yearbook. I am not going to remember what it was, but yeah, it was like those hyper neon colors splattered across the yearbook because we're so different. We're not going to just do a traditional thing. It's like, oh God. So,
and then they would have like the local, what was it? Like you had your news, like your school newspaper, right? And then those same people usually were responsible for putting your yearbook together, right?
Oh, we did it ourselves.
Yeah, but these were the kids; these were the students. But they had student newspaper, like for your high school. And so those were usually the same people, because they would take pictures of the rallies and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in the day when people were, developing their own film.
Oh yeah.
So if you look at the yearbook, oh my gosh, there's overexposed, there's blurry photos. It's just horrible. I think like the school had nerve actually charging us to buy that damn thing. It's not. It looks horrible. I looked at mine a couple years ago and I was like, man, the production values are really shitty. I think kids, well, when my daughter graduated, because they have digital cameras now, and they have all kinds of programs that they can put these things together.
Oh God, yeah, you can make a nice looking book nowadays.
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
Not even knowing what you're doing with all the programs and everything.
Yeah. These are professional looking yearbooks. Yeah. So I have to say, Clint, this is always a blast hanging with you. I can't believe my luck. I got to hang out with you twice.
No, I know. It's been
Monday and then Friday. Like you're my bookend for the work week.
It makes for a nice week, starting it out and ending it with you, and then we got to go dive right into a holiday weekend. So
yeah,
I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, everybody exercise their freedom and blow some shit up.
I've got 3 boxes of fireworks in my living room, and then my dad went over to Wisconsin to get some illegal stuff. So,
oh my God, yeah. When we moved here, when we drove from California here, like we went through New Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, and so when we were coming through, like New Mexico had fireworks stands right on the side of the road, like the highway. And I was thinking, oh shit, I thought this only existed in Joe Dirt. Like I didn't think this was real, right? And so and they have big inflatables like dinosaurs and shit. I mean, it's a big deal. And so then when we got in, because we were coming in towards the end of December, and so what we found out is people like in New Mexico and Texas and stuff, they celebrate the New Year with fireworks.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so in California, nobody does anything like that. They might shoot an occasional gun, but there's no fireworks. And so yeah, it was New Year's night, New Year's Eve, and we're hearing pop pop pop, 12 midnight, and we're like, holy shit, man, that's where these fireworks are coming from. So I was thinking Texas fireworks, right? The Woodlands where I live, fireworks. So then I'm driving around because I'm getting excited. I'm thinking we're gonna have fireworks in the backyard. I'm gonna get get one of those freedom packs, pack, and get those things and get those whistling willies or whatever. What is it? Yeah. What was it called? Screaming me.
Screaming me.
Yeah. And whistling Pete's or something like that.
Roman candles and
Roman candles. Yeah. Roman candles are the ones you can hold, right?
Well, I don't recommend it, but you can.
Well, I haven't shot a firework since I lived in LA County. So that was probably in my late teens, early 20s. So everywhere I lived after that, like fireworks, you couldn't shoot them off in California. So I was really looking forward to doing that in Texas here. But we're driving around like last couple of days. It says no fireworks. You can't shoot off fireworks here because I guess we're in a forest. So.
Oh, right. And I suppose it's a fire hazard with how dry it can be.
Yeah. So we got invited to a party. So I'm hoping there's going to be some illegal fireworks going on there.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because we're still Texas is still bordered to Mexico. So I'm sure there's some illegal stuff coming.
Oh, yeah. There's You're on the border. There's something floating around there, I would think.
Yeah.
And Minnesota's weird. You can have fireworks, but it's only ground fireworks.
Okay.
So legally, you can't buy anything that shoots off into the air. And then the nice thing is Wisconsin's right there, and basically there are no laws in Wisconsin. Like anything goes. So like the second you drive over the bridge into Wisconsin, like there's 3-fingered willies, fireworks stand. Like there's literally a 3-fingered willies fireworks stand, and you can go and get all the quote unquote good stuff there. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the ones that shoot in the air are banned in almost every state. I think those are all illegal because those can really. I mean, you can burn down houses.
Yeah, like literally, they're the fireworks that like your big city. Like that's doing it for the community. It's the same type of fireworks. It's like they're high explosives. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was thinking we would just turn this into the question stream. So I'd ask you. I was thinking I'd ask you a bunch of questions about the new campaign, which is bombshells, and then we could continue the million question idea, because I think you mistakenly, and you didn't know this was going to have any ripple effects, and you said, Art, I have a million questions for you.
I know.
And then I called your bluff. I was like, you want to try to get through a million questions, Clint?
Well, I think, what did we do the first time around? We did 30. And 30 was a lot.
Yeah. And we thought, oh, we would just kind of like do it as one of those lightning round kind of ideas, and you'd ask the questions, and then I would just answer them quick. And just as everything with me, there's no quick answer.
No, and it actually it's actually better that way, because the quick answer kind of glosses over a lot of stuff, and like sometimes you get into a question and it, like, I love a good rabbit hole. You know what I mean? You're like surfing, then all of a sudden you find something like 3 hours later, you're like, wow, I learned all about something that I never knew about. So those rabbit hole questions are always kind of fun.
Yeah, I always say on the streams, like, tangents are the best part of life, because those are like, you got your point A, you got your point B, but then it's how you get to B. You know what I mean? And then like even John Lennon, I think it's my favorite John Lennon quote. Everything else, like as I get older, I think John Lennon was a really messed up dude. But he says like life is what happens to you when you're making other plans. You know what I mean? So those are like the tangents. Those are the fun parts of life that just happen along the way. And you definitely have to ride those out, because a lot of fun can come out of that. So yeah, rabbit holes, tangents, yeah, the same thing. So let's show people, let's give them a little bit of taste of Blue Bombshell so they know what we're talking about. And this campaign looks like so much fun, my friend. I mean,
thank you.
Shit, dude. I think you're living the comic artist dream right here, drawing sexy chicks.
That's what Comicsgate is for me, is allowing me to draw all the stuff that I want to draw.
Yeah, it's freedom. I was on a live stream with Dan Frigg, and we were talking like, what is Comicsgate? Comicsgate is freedom.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Let me play this video for everybody.
Dive into adventure with the Blue Bombshell, alongside her superhero teammates, the Superiors. With her amazing super strength, she only wishes the seams on her costume were as strong, especially against enemies like Murderer's Row, as she faces off against the world's most dangerous villains. The Blue Bombshell is an all-out action and scantily clad adventure. Danger, intrigue, and a whole lot of skin. Don't miss the Blue Bombshell.
And a whole lot of skin.
Yeah, I love that. I love all the retro covers too. It's just a lot of fun, dude.
The retro covers have been really popular, and I've got more planned. I love that old school, 70s, 80s kind of comic look. I kind of imitate it with my logos, and with the old. I love the old picture boxes from like Marvel, with like the Avengers team shot with all the like the headshots and stuff. So I like using all that type of old school stuff on the comic covers for sure.
Yeah, I was lucky enough that I got just in like the tail end of the box, the little Marvel box. Mm-hmm. And I think when I was doing comics for Marvel, they were headshots. They weren't like the full figure shots anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember I got to draw one for like the Fantastic Four, and I think I inked a few of them for
cool.
X-Men. Yeah. I wish I had that artwork. That would be cool to have now.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so the Blue Bombshell is a superhero sex comedy adventure comic, adults only. So wow, you're at 14,760. You're rounding up to 15,000, 15K, my friend. That's pretty good. And you're coming in on the halfway point, I think.
Yeah. About 2 weeks into the campaign here. 2 weeks more left of the first 30 days. So we're clipping along at a nice pace. I mean, things are down in the middle of the month there. You really got to hit the ground running at the beginning and the ending here, but out doing the rounds and trying to get everybody, as many people as possible in Comicsgate to know about the Blue Bombshell. So it's great being on shows like this to let everybody know about it. But yeah, a fun action adventure comic, but also kind of a sex comedy. There is adult content, a nudity with the girls. They're good-looking girls, so it's a good thing there. That's the adult variant cover right there. Final print copies won't be censored, so you'll get all the goods on that. But a couple different options for you in the rewards. 3 different variant covers and 1 adult one like that.
You know, J. Scott Campbell wants to do stuff like this so bad.
You know, and I wish he would. You know, and like I love J. Scott Campbell's art. I steal from him as much as possible. I homage his style, or
yeah, that's it.
Or I'm influenced by his style, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I wish he'd just. I mean, he's making enough money where he probably doesn't want to shake the boat too much. It's like why wreck a good thing? But yeah, I wish he would just go for it one time. Because he loves drawing the hot chick. So
yeah,
guys don't.
Oh, go ahead.
Guys don't draw hot chicks because they want to see them clothed.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Rob Liefeld when I was working over at Extreme Studios, and all those guys were pushing the envelope, right? And I mean, they were doing stuff that was so obvious what they wanted to do, but they were trying to do stuff like, oh, I'll have a girl in a shower scene, and the suds just happen to be in like strategic locations, or they're in a bubble bath, or like all these things, and they would just be like playing at it, but you could tell what they really wanted to do. And I remember telling him, it's like, you're not with the comics code. You can do these things. Like, why don't you just do it? Why don't you?
It's basically indie comics. There's nothing stopping you at that point.
Yeah. I mean, if this is what you want to do it. And I don't think that even like parental warnings were prevalent at the time. And you only had to do that if you wanted to get, into like really mainstream outlets, which probably didn't exist anymore anyway. Like 7-Elevens and stuff like that. But I think the direct market would have still taken it.
Yeah, I mean, most comic book shops had adult comics in there, right next to the Marvel and DC. They would be bagged and boarded or something, But like most comic book shops carry the adult comics right next to them, so it's like the comic book shops were your main audience, anyways. You could have easily done any of that stuff. So yeah, it kind of makes you scratch your head. It's like, why not just go for it?
Yeah, exactly. And then if you want to get into it, like, how actresses, and it was mainly actresses, would justify, like in the day, they'd go, I do nude scenes, but only when the story and the character really warrants it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just do it to do it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how the writer made sure that the nude scene was critically important to the story when they found that she was going to be the actress,
so he could sell the actress on it. Yeah, and then the Marvel movies, those guys are contracted to have like the no shirt.
Oh yeah,
because
it's like there's one no shirt Thor scene in every movie, guaranteed. Yeah. Like, otherwise, why do all the weightlifting?
Yeah, it's definitely eye candy for the ladies, or, I can't judge. Maybe
no doubt, either one.
Yeah, maybe some guys like that stuff. I can't, I think you have some male nudity in here too, don't you?
No, well,
I'm just
not exactly. You could go down to the retro cover of at the bottom. I mean, it's not completely nudity as a costume on, but yeah, you get with the tromboner there. But then down one more, the man called Tripod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a little something for the ladies there.
Yeah, I think this is my favorite, and I think it's because I like the female power man. I guess power.
Sister Power.
Sister Power. And I just like Sweet Christmas. I told you, like in Chrono Mechanics, we had Sweet Baby Christmas. Yeah. So I didn't know anybody else that even used that saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Sister Power seems to be popular. Everybody kind of notices her. She's one of the superiors with the blue bombshell and is in the story a bunch with her. So
go ahead.
Yeah. Just a bunch of other hot super chicks in the comic besides just the blue bombshell too.
Yeah, so I do have to get into the question aspects of this. So what made you pick the certain artists and timelines that you were going to pull from for your sex comedy? Because this is definitely an ode to like John Byrne, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like John Byrne, George Perez, like those guys in the 80s. this is kind of a mishmash of the old Crisis on Infinite Earths cover with the Flash facing off against the Anti-Monitor. And I've had these character names in my head for a while, so it's finding like a good way to use them. A man called Tripod. I was like trying to framing the image because you need that big central block there. And I saw that Anti-Monitor cover where you're looking at the Flash between the guy's legs, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. So, and then with the ladies, I always loved the way John Byrne just drew the women. Like he just kind of had like, there was a softness to the way, like, you know, Sue Storm or She-Hulk or those girls looked. So I kind of lovingly homaged those types of styles for the cover.
Yeah, some of your ink line, like on Blue Bombshell on her legs and stuff, man, you just nailed the line work. Like that looks like John Byrne inking himself.
The little feathery dots for the little leg, and I mean, it was real subtle everything he did.
Yeah, it was more line. It was more line art with like one shadow. Like he usually would shadow the nose and under the chin.
Yep, that one little darker blot under one nostril, and then just the tip of the. I mean, his noses on women were like next to nothing there, but
yeah, I still use that to this day, especially when I'm just doing layouts. I'll do the John Byrne abbreviated, you know, nose. It usually doesn't see the final drawing, but when I'm just kind of sketching it in, doing layout, it's usually the nose. It's my go-to nose.
Hey, there's a reason it's worked all these years. So yeah, it's definitely
you want to keep the female noses simple, because when you start drawing the nose bridge, it starts getting they start looking a little harsh. So
and like on this one, this is an older song, and I do not remember what artist this was actually. It's not Kirby. It's a little past him, but it's from the 70s, this one that I homaged. But like the thinking behind it was just like if the Blue Bombshell had been around this whole time, like, you know, like some of these older Marvel or DC characters, throw in some retro covers, and then it gave me an excuse to like kind of introduce some of my more joke type characters, like the tromboner, a man called Tripod. I've got some more guys coming that are. I wanted to create a big rogues gallery for the Blue Bombshell. So like there's the Vibrator. There's other. I'm trying to think now. I'm not going to remember all of them. I've got a list of them somewhere of characters that are going to cause the Blue Bombshell some distress.
Yeah, there has to be a lot, because the Blue Bombshell has to kick the shit out of, you know, the tromboner and, you know, all these, the Vibrator and all this stuff. It just makes it funny, because then it's like Blue Bombshell versus,
exactly,
you know, like sexual pun, you know, add sexual pun. But I have to ask you, where did the tromboner come from? You know, because it's such a ludicrous like idea. You know, it's a trombone, you know.
Like literally, and the tromboner was probably one of the first ones that I came up with for the Blue Bombshell's bad guys, and I was just trying to think of sexual innuendo names and ideas and stuff like that, and I can't tell you exactly where it came up from, but it was just like somebody playing the trombone is called the tromboner. Like, that's perfect.
Did you play the trombone?
Is right in the name.
In high school, were you in the high school band? Did you play the trombone?
I played the French horn, unfortunately.
Okay. I like that the tromboner has to blow his weapon.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing why I stole this cover, because you know, it was like a robot or something on the missile, but the cover was so phallic, and I was like looking for something retro, like that I could make fun of, and, you know, kind of have a like sexual double entendre on the cover. And I'm like, this cover is perfect. He's on a giant phallic missile blasting the heroine in the ass. It's like this is exactly what the Blue Bombshell is all about. So,
well, I have to read this, okay? Can the Maiden of Might handle the maestro of music, deadly pocket rocket? That's no pocket rocket, man.
No.
That's a big pocket.
That's no moon. That's a space station.
That's a space station.
When comes the tromboner? Well, Shortly. The answer is shortly.
It's not going to take long.
Yeah.
He's excited. It's not going to take long.
Yeah.
So yeah,
here's the sketchbook. That's another one of the perks and the reward, and that's another thing people have asked where all the retro covers are going to be. All of the retro covers are going to be in the sketchbook. There's going to be sketches, character designs, pinups, a lot of fun stuff in there. So a lot of extras with the sketchbook there.
So this is a little ode to Kevin McGuire, right?
Yeah, another one of my favorites. Kevin is the master of the facial expression. And just like he I think the Talking Heads writers, the guys who like to do a lot of love Kevin because he puts so much into his characters with his faces and stuff. Even just Talking Head stories are interesting to look at with his art. He's not that explosive, dynamic Jim Lee kind of action, but he can make this slow parts of the story interesting with his art. And then he's always had
he's more character than huge action.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and, I have a Kevin McGuire story.
No, I'd love to hear it.
So one of them is that Kevin and I were close for a period of time, and he was doing a lot of independent books, so that's when we were close. So he worked with a close friend of mine, John Peterson, and John Peterson was an editor at DC, and then later he was editor-in-chief of Wildstorm or Homage Studios in the day. And so they were both New Yorkers, and they came and they stayed with Pamela and I at when we lived in Redondo Beach at our townhouse. And so there was a strip club that was down the street. It was called the Golden Goose. And so John is a very kind of straight-laced guy. But Kevin, I didn't really know that well, right? So I just figured that Kevin was like John because he hung out with John, and so for some reason I just brought it up, and then Kevin was like, yeah, let's go, but he wasn't overly oh yeah, this will be great or anything like that. So John was like, and so then Kevin was like, yeah, it'll be fun. So we went, and so then it turns out Kevin is like a strip club connoisseur. He knew the moves, he knew how to talk to the girls, all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy knows his way around the strip club. And then the more uncomfortable John Peterson got, the more Kevin doubled down on, John.
He's one of those friends where it's he likes to make his friend uncomfortable and then run with it a little bit.
Yeah, and so, I'm trying to buy John a drink, and John's, non-alcoholic. And so none of it worked, but Kevin and I had a great time. I can't speak for John, but Kevin and I had a great time. And also, Kevin's telling us stories, and Kevin is one of those guys that he's a victim of his own he gets in his own way. So he kind of doesn't make deadlines, because of the quality, he's putting time in.
Yeah.
And he was telling me it was a sad story, that he didn't have a drawing board. All he had was a laptop. I mean, a lap board, I should say.
Yeah.
And so his one bedroom apartment in New York or whatever. And so he said he would go into the bathroom and he would prop the lap board up against the sink. And, most sinks have a mirror that's right in front. And so he told me he would just make faces in front of the mirror and draw them. So he would draw standing up, looking at himself in the mirror. And so that's kind of how he drew all of the early stuff. I hope later, he made money in that, he was able to get a drawing board and sit down.
But that's how it started out, with just drawing in the mirror in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, wow, that's a rags to riches. I hope he's doing well. I can't say.
I'm comfortable in believing that he's doing all right. And let that be a lesson for any artists out there that are using excuses of I don't have all the top equipment, or I don't have this nice drafting board or this nice studio. Kevin McGuire, who's a legend in comics and done comics that everybody knows about, was drawing in his bathroom on his sink on a board. So it's you just find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, and it's weird to think, but it's so funny because like sometimes you hear these stories and you just go, that's perfect. That just sums it up. It's like, it's a great story to go with all the facial expressions, right? Because most people would just go, yeah, I have a mirror. It's on the side of my drawing board and I look at it. Or like the Disney animators, like, you know how we have lights on, you know, like arms, they would have, you know, they would either have a mirror set up, like propped up right next to it, or they would have mirrors on arms, and then they would just kind of reach it over, and then they would look at themselves, and they would make the expression, and then they would draw from it. And so I know a lot of artists have mirrors handy like that. Oh, totally. But this one is so fitting, like early on, standing up, using, you know, like a combination of lap board and sync for your drawing board, and then the mirrors right there. Yeah, so I just think it's perfect. So I do want to, like, this is going to be an interesting show. So I asked you a few questions. So you want to ask me like 2 or 3 questions?
Yeah, you bet. I do have some questions, some overall history questions, and then some more of just what's going on today in comics. Let me go. Yeah, see, I'm gonna be
let me refresh everybody. Okay, so this is the question, and then Clint and I are going to come up with answers. But I thought what would be interesting, instead of just Clint asking me, you know, the million questions, I'm going to be asking Clint questions too, and most of them are going to be centered around the blue bombshell. So that's kind of the theme of the show. So go for it, Clint.
So the first one I'm going to go for is like one of my fan favorite of your work here. You inked Art Adams on the classic Fantastic Four story with Spider-Man, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and the
Hulk.
Hulk. I was thinking Punisher, but Punisher shows up at the end and then they boot him out of there, right?
Yeah.
So like Art Adams is like this one of the top guys. Like most of the Wildstorm guys were influenced by him. Like I always kind of look at like history of influences. So maybe just talk a little bit about that experience of working on Art Adams, who's kind of revered by most artists, and like that whole like craziness of what that storyline. Because was it Walt Simonson writing it too?
Yeah, Walt. Yeah.
So working with like Art Adams and Walt Simonson on like this kind of classic story that everybody knows, and like those two guys are legends.
Yeah, it's funny because I started my career at Marvel. I started my career at Marvel and DC on the same day. So I started working as an inker at Marvel and penciler at DC. So the work was sporadic in the early days at Marvel. So I didn't really stay at Marvel for too long. So I started going where the work was, which was DC was giving me the work. But what started happening is I became a blip on the Marvel radar. And I don't know how this happened because I didn't pursue it. They pursued me.
Yeah.
So I'm working on Adventures of Superman. And so I believe...
Who were you inking on Adventures of Superman at that point?
It was Dan Jurgens.
Okay, it was Jurgens then. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing finishes over his pencils.
Okay.
So a little bit more in depth than, just putting lines over pencil.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So Bob Harris gives me a call, and I think it was an X-Men annual, or there was a series of stuff happening. So there was a guy named Shoemaker. Oh my gosh, what's his first name? But he was doing some X-Men stuff, and I thought it was an annual or something like that. But then there was and I was just doing like fill-in like pages. I wasn't doing the entire book. Okay. And then there was another book that they needed help on, and I thought it was an X-Men annual as well. And Art Adams was penciling that. So this is early Art Adams.
Yeah.
And so no one really knew who Art Adams was or anything like that. So they sent me a bunch of Art Adams pages, so I inked that. So there are some X-Men pages that I inked over Art Adams floating around. I don't have any. I wish I did. And so long story short, I had an early connection with Art before that Fantastic Four job. And so then also what happened early on when I went over to Marvel, and I was still at DC at the time, so I never officially left DC for Marvel.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was Walter Simonson that actually gave me a call. and he wanted me to do some fill-in work on Fantastic Four. So, and then I found out later that Walter doesn't give inks to anybody. Like there's a handful of guys that he trusts. And I had never inked him before. So he was taking a big leap of faith, but he just liked what I was doing. So I inked, I think, an issue of Fantastic Four, or maybe 2 issues. I still have some of those pages because I can't part with them.
And that was over Walt?
That was over Walt's pencils.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think Scott Williams told me later, he goes, how'd you get that gig? He doesn't let anybody ink him. And I said, I don't know. You know, it just kind of happened. So then, you know, I think I was still, I was inking. No, I was at both companies. I was still working on Adventures of Superman. And then I was working on Jim Lee's X-Men. And then just out of the blue, I think it was Ralph Macchio gave me a call and said, we're going to do this Fantastic Four story. And it's going to be outside of the canon, you know, it's just going to be like a new team and stuff like that. I think it was outside of the canon, right? It wasn't the regular numbering system, or was it?
No, it was regular issues. Yep, it was regular numbers. It was kind of like this little mini series inside the the regular, because
right.
The FF gets taken out. And
right, I remember now because Walter said he needed time on the deadline. So Walter's always like practical. So I think it was during Walter's run, right? So
yep.
It interrupted his pencil ink writing run. And so, I think he said that he just needed a break. So they were going to do these 3 fill-in books, but he didn't want it to be like relate to anything that he was doing, in the story proper.
Exactly.
So that's how that came about. And so then, Art Adams was the guy. And so it just kind of fell into place. In the early days, I was really lucky because I didn't really pursue anything. I just kind of hung out with people. You know, like I just like to have a good time and hang out. So a lot of those people I met prior, like even Art Adams, I knew before he broke into the industry. We used to do like conventions. Like I was Southern California, he was Northern California.
Yeah, he's San Francisco, I think, right?
Yeah, so sometimes we would cross, kind of, at conventions and stuff like that. And I think it was like Rob Liefeld and myself, and it was Art Adams and this guy named Art Nichols.
Okay.
So like the 4 of us kind of hung out. Yeah. So there's your, I hope I answered.
So there was 3 arts hanging out in a group of artists. Not confusing ever, right?
No, and to this day, I think we're the only, there's Art Sidem. Is that his name?
Oh yeah, Sidem, yep.
Yeah, I think we're the only arts in the business. So
I've only got one good Art Adams story. Is like when I broke in, I got to draw Xena, Warrior Princess, at Dark Horse, and there was me and Joyce Chin were penciling it, and so then Art Adams was doing the covers with Joyce Chin. So like one of my first comics that ever came out had an Art Adams cover, which I was very ecstatic about. That was like a big deal for me. So
it's funny because like, when you talk about Art Adams, he doesn't do a lot of work, but when you talk about, the work.
Oh yeah.
Like when you said Xena, Warrior Princess.
Yeah.
I know those covers. I know
those covers automatically
over Joyce Chen. I know all that stuff. I didn't know that you drew those though.
Yeah, she like did breakdowns. I did like finished pencils over her stuff. It was like one of my first gigs, so like. It was a weird mashup of things, but it was like super fun for me to work on. I was just excited to have a gig, and then I saw the Art Adams cover, and I'm like, "Holy cow!"
I hate giving up covers, but if you have to give up a cover to Art Adams, like
yes, yeah, so that's a no-brainer. So
the book is going to sell better too. Like
God, yeah, exactly. That brings me up to another question. This is like, I always like to hear other artists' opinion on this. Like Nick Bradshaw, is that an artist you're familiar with?
I know of him, yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of like me. He's obviously influenced hugely by other artists, and like he does this almost like I would say an impression of Art Adams' stuff now. And like if you put the 2 of them next to each other without knowing, a lot of people would think they were just the same artist at this point. Like, how do you feel about like artists doing that kind of thing, homaging or being that influenced to that extent by another artist?
Well, that's a good question, but I'm going to answer this first.
Oh,
Wow,
sure.
a small world.
Oh.
He says he was Art Nichols' assistant in the early 90s.
Oh, cool.
A quick Art Nichols story.
Yep.
Art Nichols is the key to my entire career because I told the story in live streams. I went to New York City, just a naive idiot. And I went to Marvel. I got turned down at Marvel, so I was dejected. I just kind of talked my way into the office. Like I said, I was just a naive kid, and so as I was coming out, I was just dejected. I bump into Art Nichols, and then Art asked, "So what's going on? It's been a long time. I haven't seen you." And I said, yeah, I'm here, trying to get some work. And he said, and I told him I got dejected, no one really wanted to work with me. And he goes, you know what? I have some pages I need to drop off at DC Comics. He said, how would you like to share a cab with me? I didn't even have cab money. You know what I mean? Like I was poor, man. I walked everywhere. I didn't even have money for the subway, right? I'm just like, couch surfing off, friends' apartments and stuff like that. And so he takes me there, he gets me in the door. And so I just start talking to editors, and it was completely the opposite. The first editor I talked to was Bob Greenberger, and Bob Greenberger says, whatever you want to do, he says, wow. You got it. And so he offered me the Warlord, and I said, yeah, I'll take the Warlord. So Art Nichols, I don't know what he's doing today. I've never really talked to him since, but if anybody knows him, Chad, if you know him, tell him to reach out to me. I'll get him on a live stream, man. It's weird because if you ever read success stories, it's usually a third party. So there's this guy and this guy, right? But there's somebody that knows those two guys that gets them together, and that's usually the way it works. It usually doesn't work directly to the guy. If you want to work at wherever, you're pounding the pavement, you're trying to get in. Doesn't happen. Then there's this guy, that knows a guy, and then basically introduces the two of you, and then that's how things usually happen. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the question was what again? I'm sorry.
The next question, just talking about Art Adams, like Nick Bradshaw, who's obviously hugely influenced by Art Adams now. And you can look at their styles and you can barely tell them apart. I always like to get other artists' opinions on because I'm obviously influenced by when I'm drawing a certain style, I kind of mimic other artists. I always like to get other artists' opinion on artists who do that type of thing. Well,
personally, I'm always from the school of if there's an audience, who cares, right?
Yeah.
I personally, unless it's real obvious or a swipe, sometimes I get just inspired by a piece that I can't help it, and I'll emulate it, but I don't do it a lot. But when I do, I'll give them credit. I'll say, after whoever or whatever like that. But with Nick, when I see his stuff on Instagram, I comment, I'll like it because it's undeniable. It's freaking good.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's Art Adams, it's they're not direct swipes, but the style is there, and it's just he puts so much work in it. That's what I always say. If you put that much time and effort into something, and it's good, it becomes undeniable. You know what I mean? You can't criticize it because it's so freaking good. So I know we all have our influences, and Art Adams, when I was working with J. Scott Campbell, he gave me the ultimate compliment, and I was working with him on Danger Girl, and he said you're the reason for this style. And I said what are you talking about? He said the way you inked Art Adams on that Fantastic Four story. He said you didn't ink Art Adams the way he had been inked prior. He said you did this bloopy wet, at the end, instead of a pull out, it was like a pull out, but then had a little bloop on the end, a little, or a dash and stuff like that. And there was the stuff. And he said, that's when I worked with Alex Gardner. That's what we were striving for. They polished the shit out of it, man. They took it and then built off of it. And that's personally, that's the stuff I like. That's to me personally, I have all my influences and I have all the things that I like. I try to bring them all together, but sometimes like my work will favor one versus the other. And so sometimes there's an inconsistency in the work. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm still experimenting, because also I have a background that most people don't. Like, I've inked a lot of different people, so I have all those styles. Like, they're all there somehow, and so sometimes I'm not thinking, and it will just come out. You know what I mean? Like this line work or this way of drawing something or this structure, it'll just come out. So I feel like I'm still at the early, even though I'm like, almost 40 years into the business, I still feel like I'm like the Beatles in the early days, where they were emulating American, music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they kind of developed the sound and then started writing their own material. So I still feel kind of like I'm wearing my influences on my sleeve, but I also feel when it comes out, it's not intentional. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's definitely unconscious. So if it happens, it's not like I'm completely aware of it.
And it like literally leads into my next question is like, I've looked at just a little bit of the new black and white art that you put out, and I would say the style has, developed into a slightly different look than the earlier black and white stuff. And then again, it just leads into influences. I was like kind of curious about, artists always develop and their styles change. Like what's kind of influencing you, or can you put a pinpoint on anything, or is it just a number of different artists that have
at this point, I'm like just trying to draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, for the first time in my career, I see Kelsey Shannon in the chat. Hey, Kelsey. And I know he's going to relate to this. It's like you draw and you draw and you draw and you work and you're in your head a lot. You're second guess. You still feel like you don't know what you're doing. And then like this time out, I'm just trying to just draw. You know what I mean? Don't have any preconceived notions. Don't be in my head. Inside my own head, second guessing, and just kind of draw and then just see what happens. Because the thing is too, I believe because of Comicsgate, I have a confidence that I never had before, because I never had a chat. You know what I mean? I never had feedback like this before. And so I think most people in the comics industry are very, very humble. And I think if they had what we have, which is this great Comicsgate audience, I think it would change things.
Yeah, I can
completely. Yeah. Because they give you the confidence to go do these things, to take chances, to put out something like Blue Bombshell. I guarantee you, Clint, if you were still working for, one of the mainstreams or, wherever you were working, they would try to talk you out of doing that.
They did. Like, I had editors say this stuff is not going to be picked up by a publisher at all. So yeah. So let me see. Let's go back to Blue Bombshell. I'm going to ask you some questions. Those are great, Clint. You are awesome. No, I love this. I always have fun. I always have fun picking your brain and asking you questions about all this stuff, because I'm obviously I'd be in the chat listening, and I'm a huge fan. So
I wish I had quicker answers for
No, I prefer this. I much prefer this because
okay, so we already know the inspiration to the sexy girls, but how did you come about picking the homage pieces? Like this is like the female Luke Cage, and this this is basically Power Girl, kind of thing, and you can see kind of some of the characters are like odes, or like you said, homage to like certain comic book characters. So let's just take these two for example.
Sure.
What brought you to this? You know what I mean?
Basically, I would say I am a comic book fan. I am a Marvel fan. I am a DC fan. I grew up on this stuff. I love this stuff. That's the stuff I want to draw. This is my version of what I wanted to draw, the characters that I would enjoy drawing. Would I have enjoyed drawing, say, Power Girl? Yeah, I probably would have enjoyed drawing Power Girl. But since I'm not going to be, I'm going to draw the Blue Bombshell. The Sister Power, and she has a sidekick called Karate Girl, who didn't get focused too much on this, but that was this pinup that I drew, and I've got it somewhere, and I'll have to put it up. But it was like literally, you were talking about the strip club earlier.
Yeah.
I had drawn this one pinup, and it was a superhero strip club, and like Tony Stark was in his like classic Iron Man armor at the corner of the bar, drunk with the glass, with that classic Iron Man cover where he's staring in the mirror, I think, and he's got the 5 o'clock shadow. And
is it devil? What is it?
Yep.
In a bottle or something?
Devil in a bottle. Yep, exactly. And all the superheroes are like standing around bullshitting and like outbragging each other, and up on stage is like Wonder Woman and She-Hulk are dancing, and Doctor Strange is like holding up a 20. It's like that whole pinup gave me a bunch of ideas. Like it was a springboard. And so the female version of Power Girl or Sister Power and Karate Girl, an homage to Luke Cage, Power Man, and Iron Fist, kind of came from that. This is how I come up with ideas. I say Iron Fist, and that pops into my head like a character that I could like translate into the Blue Bombshells world.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure that you don't want to go as like a Karate Girl's arch nemesis is Power Fist or Iron Fist or some kind of like Fisto or something.
Power Fister.
Power Fister.
That's one of the real high-end rewards.
Yeah, there's
that might be crossing a line there.
Yeah, there's a line that you will not cross.
That's not what I'm shooting for. But that, like, literally, that's the kind of stuff that's like, I'm mowing the lawn or washing dishes or some boring task, and my brain, in the back of my head, the little hamster wheel is spinning up stupid ideas like that, and I'm like, you know what? I could probably get a couple of laughs on a comic page with that idea.
Yeah. So how did you come about? Like, was there any kind of real criteria? Like, did you write down, well, I have to equally represent Marvel and DC? Was there any criteria? Like, okay.
I like to take from both, and like,
okay.
I'm kind of always by the seat of my pants. Like, I write a story, and like I realize, okay, I got to wrap this up in the next 4 pages. So I'm like not a classic writer where I have everything plotted out ahead of time. I kind of have a general idea, and then I just try and fit as much stuff in there as inside jokes and whatever. I saw like this weightlifting thing, and I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect for her practicing her suit and lifting up the big weights. And of course, the seams on her costume are going to burst open because it's not strong enough to contain her.
Yeah, you can't contain her. Yeah,
indestructible rack. So the ideas are always kind of coming, and then it's just me figuring out where I can squeeze them into the story, what kind of goofy homage I can do to like classic comics that we all love, or what kind of new fun character. Like Cheerleader X is like, who doesn't love a hot blonde cheerleader prancing around, and let's just make her some sort of superhero too. So it's like those are the kind of ideas that just kind of filter their way into the comic. Yes,
well, I think you just got a backer. Were you at 175 when we started? I think you're at 176 now, so you got a backer. That's cool.
Oh yeah, we did. Awesome, thank you guys. Terror Wombat's got my writing process. He's figured it out. He's discovered my secret is TNA, more TNA, and conclusion.
Oh yeah, you got to have those. Those are your ingredients. Those are like your beginning, middle, end of your story. Yeah, yes. I do have to ask you one more question. And this is probably the best question. Okay, are you ready for this?
Sure. Yep.
What line would you not cross? And I need an example.
Yeah.
I might be rude, so if there's anybody that's a little sensitive, you might.
Yeah, I'm not very politically correct, but like, let's see, like disturbing kind of stuff, like, nudity, sex, fun, lighthearted stuff. Like I'm not going for like dark, violent, cruelty towards women. I'm 100% against any of that stuff. Like, this is lighthearted. The old, like, I put it to the old 80s movies where you'd have Animal House, or you'd have, the National Lampoon's movies where it'd be fun, lighthearted humor, and like some cute girl's boobs are going to pop out sometime during the movie. That's kind of the genre of my comic books. I'm not anti-women at all. I think women are beautiful. I respect them. I also don't mind seeing them naked once in a while. So I'm a guy. But yeah, that's kind of where I, put the line at. Like, nothing violent, nothing dark, nothing violent towards women. Even like the Blue Bombshell will get in fights with the bad guys and her boobs might pop out, but like, she's stronger than the bad guys. Like, there's not.
And she always wins, and she's the hero. She's the hero of the book. Yeah. So the thing is, this is what I always thought was the reason men and women get into problems is because men usually don't try to analyze women too much, but I think women do. They try to analyze men, and so it's not really that complicated. I know there's a George Carlin joke or something about like how simple it is, but I'm not going to get into that. But it really is like, as much as women want to try to deny it, it's visual.
Yeah,
it's visual for men, and there can be a detachment mentally. You know what I mean? That's why, like, guys can say something like cheaters. I think guys that cheat are horrible, but that's why guys that cheat can say it meant nothing, and they can mean it, because sometimes it could just be the moment. It could be a visual. It could be whatever. And the thing is, we have to stop. If we're going to get along, we have to stop framing it up as right or wrong. It's an instinct that you try to fight against, because people can get hurt if you're cheating and stuff like that. So you aspire to this other thing, but this exists. But to deny it and then to say it's bad or evil, like feminists or women will say it's evil or whatever, and that men are pigs and whatever. I think that's an oversimplification, because men don't have any control over it. It's like it's how you are. Like, you need to breathe air. There's certain things you need to.
You're wired that way from the get-go, and
right. You don't have any control over it. You aspire to be, in a loving relationship. You aspire for these things, but some guys can do it, and some guys can't. You know what I mean? And that's just the individual. And then that's up to it's the situation. It's up to the individual what they think. But I think if we could just get past that, I think a lot of the problems would be solved, because it's not necessarily like, if you look at a pretty girl or you think they're attractive, it's not really cheating. It's just kind of how you're wired. I think if you take action on it and you're in a relationship, I think that's bad. Yeah. But to deny it is also just absurd. It's dumb, because it exists.
Yeah.
It's a fact. You can't deny it.
It's hard to fight nature.
Right, exactly. So I think that like books like this and stuff, like, people want to frame them up as like good or bad, like, oh, well, that's sexist or that's whatever. Well, it just kind of is. It's not like we want to frame things up as good or bad, and this is just, it's not good or bad. It just is.
Yeah. And what I found a little funny is, like, some people are more comfortable with my comic and some people are less comfortable with my comic. And it's always kind of like a little bit of maybe a personality test, because it's not a bad thing or a good thing. I completely understand if my comic is not the classiest comic out there, and some people are not going to be down with it. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, some people are a little bit more squeamish about, like, that's really kind of pushing the envelope, and other people are like, that's not a big deal at all. It's like, oh, there's boobs in a comic, big deal. So you kind of a little test there where people fall along those lines.
It's like taking John Peterson to a strip joint.
That's exactly right.
It's like
some people are Kevin McGuire, some people are John Peterson.
But deep down, I know John had a good time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, and that's the thing is Kevin probably had even more fun than he would just have in a strip club, of knowing that he was making his buddy uncomfortable by having fun in the strip club.
Yeah, and I think it's like, oh my gosh, I want to name drop, but
no.
We were in Canada, and I went out with another group of people, and this is a big name guy, and he was all like, whatever, but he just went along with the group. And I'll tell you, that guy came out of his shell. And it didn't take much. Yeah. And I do remember this, though. He kept going like, I think it's time to shoot some pool. So we would walk away and go shoot some pool. And I think that was his way of trying to save face. You know what I mean? It's like, no, we're here to shoot pool and drink some beer, right? Yes. Oh, thank you so much, Peyton. I do appreciate it. For the $2 super chat. Where's the black and white homage cover?
You worked on enough classic covers. You could probably do an homage cover to yourself, probably.
An homage to the homage, yeah. I worked at Homage Studios.
Homages and homages and homages.
Yeah, it's funny because I do remember having this conversation with Jim Lee, because this was the day of fax machines. So we were contacting. This is the day when we were working together. So I faxed out. And I had like letterhead. It said Hack Shack Studios. I made like a real basic logo and stuff like that. And so I sent it out. And shortly after, I get a reply. And it was from Will's Portaccio. And all of a sudden, they had letterhead. And it said Homage Studios. And I remember we were hanging out, Jim and I. And Jim goes, I got to tell you, that Hack Shack Studios is kind of, it's not a good thing to call your studio. And I go, why? And he said, a hack is a derogatory term for an artist that draws bad. And I said, I know. And he's like, but why would you do that then? And I was like, because I think it's funny. Because I'm not a hack. I mean, and the studio puts out great work. I mean, the history proves it, and it has the test of time, and it's just the opposite of that. And so I think about Comicsgate, how Comicsgate owned like the derogatory term of Comicsgate. That's not a nice thing, it was, but then we owned it. So I feel like maybe my whole career is Comicsgate.
Taking that negative and turning it into a positive.
Yeah, maybe I've always been that, and just kind of have this like perverse kind of like finding the humor in like some of this more negative stuff. And so I always remember like Jim really I remember that look. He was incredulous, and he looked at me like, how could you do this? And then I never said it to him, but I always thought, yeah, but I think your name is bad. Yeah. It's like pretentious, like it's very pretentious, like Homage Studios or Homage Studios. Yeah. It's like whatever. And so later, it became Wildstorm.
I remember artist, another big name guy I won't mention, but he was convinced that Dark Horse Comics would always kind of be a lower rung company because they chose the name Dark Horse, and there was kind of a not necessarily derogatory term, but it was like, you're the underdog or something like that. And he's like, just thought it was the worst name for the company, and that it would kind of always kind of hold them down. And I was like, I didn't understand his logic, but yeah, it was kind of similar to what you're saying with that. And it's like, I don't know, Dark Horse seems to be doing fine, how many decades later, and movie properties, and still going strong. And I don't think it hurt him that much.
I think they did okay. Yeah. On the other hand, I do remember having like Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said Mike Richardson. He might be a decent businessman. Might know what he's doing.
I remember having the opposite conversation with Mike S. Miller, though. And I think it was because of the personality that I had the conversation, because he was like Blacklist Comics.
Oh.
And I was like, if you want to kind of build beyond that, I think Blacklist is probably not a good studio name or a good publishing name, because you're already kind of, and it wasn't true, but it wasn't ironic either. Like, it really felt like that he was blacklisted.
I was going to say that's literally the case.
It's nail on the head. I think it's not.
Yeah, it's not as much a joke as it's just saying what happened.
Yeah, this is like, I think Underdog Studios would have been funny, it would have been fun, and it would have been, but Blacklist I just thought was a little too much. Yeah.
Too nail on the head.
And I think it was because it was nail on the head, and I knew that Mike couldn't necessarily play it off. Mike being Mike, I love you, Mike, but whenever I say that around Aaron Lepresti, Aaron always is like, "You love Mike. Why would you say that?" But we are complicated. People are complicated. We're very.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what makes everybody fun, is because not everybody's the same personality. It's like interacting with people that are just all kind of the same mindset. That gets boring real fast. That's kind of what's fun about Comicsgate, is like there's a ton of different characters in here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and thank you, Peyton. That's good ink. That is the Inko slogan. So now Inko's up in the corner, I guess on this side. He is the Hack Shack Studios mascot. We're gonna have some fun stuff we're gonna bring your way with Inko. So let's do a quick go back to Blue Bombshell, and we'll wrap this bad boy up. Put a nice blue bombshell
ribbon on her.
Yeah, ribbon on her. So, you got a backer. Let's check again. 176. We're still 176. 14,000. Stone's throw away from 15K.
Creeping up.
That's amazing. You're at your halfway mark. So this is great. So if you guys are fans of just fun comic books and don't take themselves too seriously, Clint is one of the funnest guys in Comicsgate. Always fun to hang out with.
Thank you.
Come back this book. Like the president says, I'm coming. I'm coming.
You don't want to miss the coming of the tromboner.
Yeah.
It's all over the Blue Bombshell.
Yeah, it's all about the Blue Bombshell and the penetration of the tromboner. There's jugs and titties. So you guys,
a plenty. Don't miss the pink pussy cat.
Yeah, and the other one is the
fetish.
The fetish, and then
fetish and bloodthirsty.
Bloodthirsty, yeah. So this is just good, clean fun, you guys. Exactly. I used to always say this is good, clean fun. Like it's not taking itself too seriously. It's just gonna be a fun read. And you know what? Right now, damn it, if you can bring a smile to somebody's face, Clint.
Oh yeah.
We've done our job. That's how I feel about Chrono Mechanics too. It was completely outside the box, but if I can get somebody to smile or chuckle, or anything else, that's fun. I think I've done my job. So yeah, this is good stuff. This is Rogue Savage Land stuff. This is perfect stuff.
Speaking of homages.
Yeah, exactly. But you're not taking it too seriously. Yeah,
no, not at all.
And so you guys, I'm going to share something near and dear to my heart. So this is a little self-serving plug right here. So this is, and it's not going to cost you anything at this point. This is the Black and White Volume 2 pre-launch page. So if you sign up, you will, with a backing, get a free trading card. It's a black and white trading card. Colored by Stefani Renee, the great Stefani Renee, who I worked with before Comicsgate on a Chrono Mechanics project. So this is a small world, man. And there's people from all around that are coming into Comicsgate. all different talents, all different, letterers, colors, inkers, writers. It's just good. This is just the beginning, you guys. Comicsgate is going to be just huge. It is going to keep going from here. So this is the video that Red Gaze put together for Black and White, Volume 2, Man vs. Machine. Cue music. Yeah!
I love it. In a world.
Zam, zam, zam. We will bring justice back to comic books.
Nice.
Sign up now, people.
Nice. I love that video.
Oh, thank you, man. Red Gaze knocked himself out on that for sure. So yeah, you guys. Black and White, Volume 2. This is the follow-up to the successful six-figure little lady campaign that was Black and White, Volume 1, and we're hoping to do some monumental damage like we did with the first campaign, and that's all because of you guys. Comicsgate is the best, and before you know it, this campaign is going to be going live, and I cannot wait to share all the cool stuff we have in store for you. So all I ask right now is go out and just give me your email, and you will be eligible for that trading card and early bird specials and exclusives. You will have early bird specials. You'll be able to come into the campaign. I'm sorry, I'm being clumsy right now. You'll be able to come into the campaign early, so you'll be able to be there before we open it to anybody else.
Very
so that's
cool.
the idea. So you can kind of shop, get the exclusives, get the limited tiers. Most likely, when we did this with Chrono, and I think we did this with Black and White Volume 1 Second Chance, those things sold out quickly. They just sold out within that hour. So yeah, definitely sign up, and you'll have access to all those early bird specials and exclusives. So I think I said that better this time out. So, and then of course there's Blue Bombshells. Go in, good, clean fun. Good guy. Clint is just so much fun to hang out with on these live streams. So what's your parting shot, Clint? You got one for us?
Right now, everybody have a hell of an awesome 4th of July weekend. Like right now, I'm switching my mind off of work. The second I get off your show, this was the last thing for the week for me. I got my yard mowed. I got my fireworks. I got a cooler full of ice cold beverages, and everybody have a safe holiday weekend. God bless America. God bless Comicsgate. Comicsgate is kind of changed my life. I'm doing exactly the kind of stuff that I've always dreamed about doing, and it's thanks to Comicsgate. So I appreciate every one of you guys in the chat. I appreciate every single one of my backers. Doing what I love, and I love doing comics. Love being on your show, Art. I always appreciate it. I always have a blast talking to you. I can pick your brain. I love hearing all these stories. I mean, like 90% of my favorite comic books are the stuff that you worked on. So it is just a thrill for me to be on here always.
Well, thank you. And we have a built-in reason to hang out now because we've got the million questions.
Yeah, I think I'm like only 40, maybe 50 questions into that million, so we still got a ways to go. Definitely.
Yeah. So we'll always have commonality with the million questions.
Absolutely.
So Thank you. I will continue to tear it up for sure. Joe says we need to support comics that the creators care about their audience, not these big corporate books that don't care what they do to the characters. Indeed, I haven't picked up a comic book in years. Actually, to be more honest, I have, but they're all back issues. I haven't bought a new comic book in years, but I have bought like back issues and stuff like that. So so very good, Clint. This has been a joy. It's always fun hanging out with you. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks, chat. You guys are the best, and we'll see you soon. Take care.